So as the second part of this montages section, I think we have covered this upper body post cache, right? So the first part we covered upper body lower body split, and then we covered this part, and now the implementation of the animation instance side is almost done, but now we should have a way to actually use these logics at our blueprint level, right? So for example, uh, let's say if I'm going to use our character blueprint like here, so there should be a way, if certain events has been called or certain functions has been called, there should be a way to play a specific animation montage based on this anim instance, right? Okay, so there are several ways actually achieve this feature. So one thing I can do is I can simply create a function here to play montages and stop montages, and based on the function call, that specific montage will be played, right? Uh, but then the issue is actually that logic will be binded only for these characters, right? Which is not actually ideal, because later on I need to play some montages for other sort of actors as well, such as weapons, right? So for example, like weapon firing, weapon reloading, right? So based on that specific scenario, certain animation montages will be played on those actors as well. But if I hard code the montage playing functions at here, what will happen is that I will have no access to those functions at that specific actor blueprint, right? So in order to have sort of a reusable functions, I think I can create another component, right? Actor component. So I can simply plug that actor component, whatever the actor that I am going to play that specific animation montage, and I can simply reuse the logic there, right? Like we did here. Okay, so I'll go to the blueprints and components, and this is a subsystem actually in our game. So I will create a folder called subsystems, and I'll move this locomotion system inside to that specific directory, right? So we'll be having multiple different subsystems like that. So for example, like locomotion system, map system, maybe pedestrian AI system. So there will be like multiple different subsystems. So I will use this directory to organize those stuff at there. And we need some helpers as well, right? For example, to play this montage, right? So I will use this helpers directory to organize those actor components. And let's create a new blueprint class, which is actor component, and I'll call it as bpc montage helper, right? And then I can add this montage helper for our character base, because initially I need to play certain animation montage based on our character blueprint. So let's add that montage helper component here, and we are good to go. Okay, so I'll go to the montage helper, and just for testing I'll create a function called play montage, and I'll simply add the hello world print string. I just need to check whether this one is calling properly or not. So at the character base, at the beginning play, I will use this montage helper, and I'll call that play montage function. And let's play. Okay. seems it's not calling. Right. Let's see why is that. So I'll add a small delay and I'll make this as a validated get. And let's say we have a valid component. Okay, I think I know the reason. Because actually I'm playing this game using our player character. So probably at the player character begin play, I'm overriding certain functions. Yes, here you can see actually this one doesn't call for the parent begin play. Instead, it implements certain functions such as this initializing input mapping context. Right. So I think if I add the call to parent function here and attach it to here, right? So if I play it now, you can see the valid is calling, right? Okay. So I'll go to the character base, and I don't need this print string. I'll simply plug it to here, compile and save. Let's play. You can see the hello is called, right? Which means our component has been attached and calling properly. Okay, now let's implement certain logics to play a certain animation montage by using this specific helper component. Right. So I'll go to the begin play and I'll create a new custom function called event play montage. Right. And there we can use play montage editor function, and we need a way to actually get this skeletal mesh component. So I think we can do that at the begin play. So I'll simply get the owner and I'll promote it to a variable called owner, and then I can check get component by class and check whether it has a skeletal mesh component. If we have a valid skeletal mesh component, I can simply promote this to a variable called skeletal mesh. Right. And just for testing, let's print this instance as well. Then we can actually see whether it's capturing properly or not. Right, it's capturing. See, it's printing the scheme many, which is our skeletal mesh component. Right. And then I can use that skeletal mesh reference in order to play our montage at here. And then what? Then I can use this stuff as it is. So I will plug these pins to here, compile and save. And then I can go to the play montage function. So ideally, this is the function that we are going to call outside any actor blueprint based on this specific montage helper actor component. Therefore, I will remove this function and use this event. Right. And then I can plug these pins to here like we did before at this event. Right. So the first reason to have this play montage is being called at this event is actually this can't be called at a function level, right? So for example, if I try to call that play montage edit a function, you can't see actually any sort of implementation there, because this is a delay based function. Like maybe this can be hold or any sort of a thing. So this is a latent function. Therefore, such events or such functions should be called in the event graph level as an event, right? Not as a function. That's why I first implement this event, and then I can call that event at my function level like this. Okay. Okay, so this is simply for playing montages, right? And then what I can do is I can create another event to stop montage. Stop montage. And to that, do I have a, no, don't have a one. Can I use this one and stop montage? Still not. Yeah, so actually in order to stop montage, we need a reference for a character. Right? So what I can do is I'll add some space here and I'll get this owner, or maybe what I can do is I can add a sequence and I'll get this owner and I'll cast to character and promote this to a new variable called character. And this stuff will be executed as the second iteration or second sequence. And then I can remove this thing and I can get the character reference. I can check whether it has a valid reference or not. And if it has a valid reference, I can simply call the stop any montage. Right? And for the any montage to be stopped, I can pass it to here as the any montage. Okay. And then let's go back to our functions. Not to here actually. Let's create another function called stop montage, and then I can call that event at here, and this is the any montage to be stopped. This will go to here and it will stop the any montage if we have a valid character reference. Okay. Right. And then I think finally we can use this function. Right? So here you can see like at the current implementations, at the beginning play we have this thing, but not at the beginning play. I will use a custom input, be like keyboard event 1, and whenever I press 1, if we have a valid reference for montage helper, which is we have actually, it will play a specific animation montage, right? So this is just for debugging purposes, right? Later on actually we can have a better implementation. Okay, now yeah, now let's create a sample animation montage and see whether it's working properly or not. Right, so I'll go to the TPS game essentials, inside the characters, mannequin animation. Which one I'm going to use? Maybe I will use that casting animation at the greystone. So I'll right click on it and create animation montage. It will create an animation montage like this. And since this is a montage, I will move those to a TPS game animations directory, so it will be a bit more organized, right? Okay, and there I will create a new folder called montages. So all the animation montages that we are going to use in this project will be exist in this specific directory, right? Okay, so for now this is just for testing, so for now I will keep the name as it is, and I'll go to the character base and let's assign that animation as an animation montage as montage to play. Right, and I think this is not enough because currently you can see the play rate is 0, so this may has some issues later on. So in order to resolve those stuff, I will add certain default values for our play montage animation, play montage function. So mainly I'm interested in this play rate, so ideally the default value should be 1, so I'll keep it as 1, and rest of the stuff I can keep as it is. And now if I go to the character base, you can see the default value is 1, right? So later on when you are going to reuse these functions, we don't need to actually set up these values again and again. Instead it will use this default value as the default input, right? Okay, now let's play test. Okay, right, so I think the issue is at the montage, so let's go and check the montage. Yeah, so here you can see like we haven't selected a specific slot to play that animation montage. So maybe we can select upper body and save, and let's try to play it again. Okay, now you can see that montage is being played, but here since we're going to use the upper body, it will actually play the montage for the entire body. But what if we use upper body split? Okay, and let's play test again. Okay, actually it's playing the animation properly, but the character is stopping, right? Okay, let's see why. Right, so I debugged the issue and I found it, I guess. Yeah, so the issue is actually at animation locomotion anime instance. We have these montage slots, okay? So these montage slots goes through multiple different slots and apply that animation montage, right? For example, it goes through this upper body additive, goes through this full body additive pre-aim, and it goes through this upper body split, and finally upper body, right? So the animation or animation montages regarding to that specific slot will be played, but the default slot based animations may not be played because we are not passing the animation through that specific slot, right? So let's add that quickly, so it will probably fix the issue. So I'll add a new animation layer called default pose, and inside this default pose Mm, let's add the logic to pass that animation sequence or execution flow through the default slot. So first, of course, I need to add the input pin. So select this animation layer and add the input pin, and I'll call it as input pause, and I'll save this and call this as default pause, and let's use that default pause cached instance, and let's use the default slot, right? So make sure the slot name is default, right? And I'll pass to here. Okay, and then let's go back to the anim graph, and after everything finishes, right after the final pause, we can pass that sequence through this default pause anim layer, and it will properly sync with the existing default animations, such as these locomotion stuff. So I need to use this default pause cache here. So let's use, yeah, I think yeah, maybe I will call this as a different name. I'll call it as control rig, or simply I'll say IK pause cache. It's more meaningful, this specific category, and I'll use that IK pause cache alongside the default pause anim layer, and then I will promote it to a pause cache called default pause cache. Compile and save. And I think this is exact same as that default pause cache, but just to be sure, I will remove this thing and add default pause cache, right? Because I think I have removed the default pause cache instance at here, so it has sort of a dead reference at here, right? So since I'm going to use the same name, I'll remove that previous pin and use the new pin, right? But it's the exact same name, so just to be assured, I just add the new pin. Okay, now I'll comment this one as let's say default pause. Compile and save all, and let's play. Okay, I think still we have the issue. So we have sort of a T-pose issue as well. So for the sudden movement, sometimes we has that issue. Yeah, let me debug further. Right. So actually I found the issue. So issue is actually at the root motion, right? Because so I'm going to use this graystone cast as the anim montage. So this anim montage will use this graystone cast as the reference anim sequence, and that anim sequence is marked as a root motion based animation. But actually this animation is in place animation, so it doesn't inherit any sort of a root motion. So what will happen is that the default speed will be 0, or the movement will be disabled, because we enabled the root motion at here. So make sure to disable these sort of root motions when you are using the corresponding animation montage for a specific animation sequence, right? So I disable the root motion, and since I disable the root motion, I don't need to enable the force root lock as well. So I disable both of them. Right, now if I save and save all and play test again, and you can see while moving, I can play that specific animation montage. Awesome. Right, so you can see I can have any sort of animation mode that has been played, right? So the upper body will play the animation montage, where the lower body will be keep playing the existing locomotion animation sequence, right? All of this happened because of this slot group, right? So the currently I mark the slot group as upper body split, but let's say if I make it as full body, and let's play it again, and now you can see the animation montage has been applied for the entire body, right? So you can see the foot is also sliding because the lower body is also playing that specific animation montage, right? So if I toggle in between multiple different movement modes, it doesn't matter, it simply plays that specific animation montage, right? Because it's a full body animation, right? So most of the time we are going to use these full body animations for in place interactions where the character is not moving at the map, right? But if the character is moving, then ideally we should go for the upper body or upper body split, right? So personally I would prefer to use upper body split, but if you want, you can use upper body as well. It will work as same, right? But I will use the upper body split. Okay, right, so this is how we can play the animation montages using our montage helper component, right? Using this one. Okay, so that's what I wanted to cover as the final part of the montage section, and I think now we are almost done with the existing locomotion implementations. Only the remaining part is like the aim offsets, right? So currently our implementation doesn't have any sort of procedures to handle those sort of aim offsets. So maybe as the next section, let's cover those stuff. But for now, I think we have a very nice looking montage anim layer, right? And most importantly, actually, these montage slots has been implemented in a way such that it is quickly expandable, right? For example, I have a dedicated animation layer for montage slots, and currently I'm only using 2 different slots to have a layered blend. But if you need to have much more complex blending mechanisms, such as like hand level blending or even leg level blending or any sort of a blending based on your custom characters, you can add those certain layer blend nodes within this animation layer, right? Which is montage slots. So rest of the stuffs will remain same, only this one will be changed, right? So that modularity and extensibility is there in our implementation, right? Okay, so that's all I wanted to cover today, and I'll see you there in the next tutorial. Thank you.